What happens when the laughter fades? Behind every great sitcom lies a tapestry of human lives, some joyful, some troubled, some cut tragically short. 2.5 Men wasn't just a comedy phenomenon, it was a cultural touchstone that gave us unforgettable characters and iconic one-liners. But many of the actors who brought these moments to life have since departed, leaving behind both legacies and lingering sorrow. Today, we look back at 13 beloved performers from 2.5 Men who are no longer with us, but whose presence still echoes through every rerun and every smile they brought to our screens. Conchata Ferrell as Berta. Few characters in television comedy have ever left such a permanent impression with so little screen time as Berta, the wisecracking housekeeper with a heart of gold and a mouth like a buzzsaw. Played masterfully by Conchata Ferrell, Berta wasn't just another sitcom side character, she was the show's secret weapon. Every entrance she made was like a verbal hurricane, cutting through the Harper brothers' dysfunction with sarcasm, unapologetic honesty, and a grounded realism that made her instantly beloved. But the woman behind the role, Conchata Galen Ferrell, had a story just as powerful as her on-screen persona, one rooted in perseverance, quiet triumphs, and hard-earned success. Born on March 28, 1943, in the small coal town of Loudondale, West Virginia, Conchata was raised in a working-class family. Her father, Luther Martin Ferrell, worked in the power company, and her mother, Mescal Lorraine, kept the household together. The family later moved to Circleville, Ohio, where Ferrell spent her teenage years. She originally attended West Virginia University but left after 2 years, only to return later to earn a degree in history education from Marshall University. It was during this period that Ferrell's passion for acting truly blossomed. She joined the university's drama department, and soon after graduation, she was cast in regional theater productions that allowed her to refine her talent and cultivate her signature timing and delivery. Ferrell's career in entertainment didn't unfold overnight. She started out in stage productions, earning critical acclaim for her performance in the 1973 off-Broadway play The Seahorse, which won her multiple theater awards. Her screen debut came in the 1970s, and she went on to appear in numerous films and television shows, including Mystic Pizza, Edward Scissorhands, Krampus, and Erin Brockovich. Her distinctive presence, marked by her sharp voice, expressive face, and commanding energy, made her a memorable supporting actress in every project she touched. In 1992, she earned an Emmy nomination for her role as Susan Bloom on L.A. Law, a sign of the industry's growing recognition of her power as a character actress. But it wasn't until 2.5 Men premiered in 2003 that Ferrell found the role that would cement her legacy. Originally hired for just a handful of episodes, her performance as Berta was so unforgettable that producers kept bringing her back. She eventually became a series regular, appearing in over 200 episodes across 12 seasons. Ferrell didn't just deliver punchlines, she elevated them. Her chemistry with Charlie Sheen and Jon Cryer added an unexpected emotional layer to a show that often teetered on the absurd. In a world of self-centered men, Berta was the brutally honest conscience they desperately needed, even if they didn't want to hear it. Her work on the show earned her 2 more Emmy nominations in 2005 and 2007 for Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Comedy Series. Despite the brash character she played, Ferrell was known in real life as warm, thoughtful, and humble. She married Arnie Anderson in the 1980s, and though they never legally wed in the traditional sense, they considered each other husband and wife. Together, they had 1 daughter, Samantha, and shared a quiet domestic life in California. Ferrell kept her personal life private, often shying away from the Hollywood limelight and preferring time at home to red carpet appearances. In interviews, she spoke candidly about her working-class roots and her gratitude for the opportunity to make a living doing what she loved. Sadly, Ferrell's final years were marked by significant health complications. In May 2020, She was hospitalized with a serious kidney infection that led to sepsis and a cardiac arrest that lasted more than 10 minutes. Though she was stabilized and moved to a long-term care facility, the damage to her organs had been severe. She struggled with chronic kidney disease, respiratory issues, and ongoing complications that made recovery unlikely. Despite the best efforts of her medical team and support from her family, she passed away on October 12, 2020, at Sherman Oaks Hospital in California at the age of 77. The news of her passing was met with heartfelt tributes from colleagues, fans, and fellow actors. Jon Cryer, her longtime co-star, remembered her as a beautiful human and a warm and lovely person, and Chuck Lorre, the show's creator, credited her with helping shape the tone and soul of 2.5 Men. While Conchata Ferrell never sought fame for its own sake, her legacy is one that will endure. In a business obsessed with youth and glamour, she proved that talent, authenticity, and staying true to oneself can still lead to stardom. Martin Mull as Russell. Martin Mull was never the kind of actor to shout for attention. He didn't need to. His talent whispered volumes. When he stepped into the role of Russell on 2.5 Men, the eccentric deadpan pharmacist with an endless supply of questionable pills and even more questionable advice, he brought a unique flavor to the show's otherwise chaotic universe. Russell was the kind of guy who appeared out of nowhere, delivered a perfectly timed line about prescription meds or cosmic nonsense, and then vanished just as quickly, leaving the audience in stitches. But Martin Mull, the man behind the role, was far more than a recurring character on a sitcom. He was an artistic polymath, an actor, musician, comedian, writer, and painter who quietly carved out one of the most eclectic and respected careers in American entertainment. Born on August 18, 1943 in Chicago, Illinois, Martin Eugene Mull spent his early childhood in North Ridgeville, Ohio. He later moved with his family to New Canaan, Connecticut, where he would graduate from high school. His early aspirations were artistic rather than theatrical. He earned both his Bachelor of Fine Arts and Master of Fine Arts degrees from the prestigious Rhode Island School of Design, specializing in painting. Long before he became known for delivering dry one-liners on television, Mull's paintings were featured in galleries and private collections across the country. Art wasn't just a hobby, it was a serious pursuit, one that remained with him for life. His journey into comedy and music began in the 1970s, when he gained national attention for his satirical country songs like Jesus is Easy and Dueling Tubas. He was signed to Capricorn Records and released several albums, blending folk, country, and ironic wit. This unique voice led to appearances on shows like Fernwood Tonight and Mary Hartman, where his deadpan delivery and cerebral humor became his trademark. But Mull's big break into mainstream television came with his role as Garth Gimble and later Barth Gimble, sardonic talk show hosts that solidified him as a cult comedy legend. In the following decades, Mull never stopped working. He appeared in hit shows such as Roseanne, where he played Leon Karp, the gay boss and eventual business partner of Roseanne and Jackie, earning praise for a portrayal that was both funny and quietly groundbreaking. He also charmed younger audiences with his role as Principal Willard Kraft in Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and even lent his voice to animated series like Danny Phantom, where he played the flamboyant villain Vlad Plasmius. His film credits include Clue, where he played the bumbling Colonel Mustard, further cementing his cult favorite status. Mull's personal life was as grounded as his humor was lofty. He was married 3 times, with his third and longest-lasting marriage to singer Wendy Haas, beginning in 1982. The couple had one daughter, Maggie Mull, who would go on to become a successful comedy writer and producer, contributing to shows like Family Guy and Life in Pieces. Mull frequently spoke with pride about Maggie's achievements, and their relationship was known to be close and full of mutual respect. Despite working in an industry known for ego and instability, Mole managed to build a life of quiet success and familial warmth. Throughout his life, Mole was open about his agnosticism and often skeptical of organized religion. In interviews, he quipped that religion had caused more harm than good, always finding a way to marry cynicism with sincerity. While others chased spotlight and stardom, Mole remained remarkably unbothered by celebrity. He once said, "I've always tried to keep a low profile because once people know who you are, you're no longer funny." That humility only made his work all the more authentic. Even as he aged, Mole stayed active in both acting and visual art. He exhibited paintings well into his 70s and continued to act in shows like Veep, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and The Cool Kids. His signature humor, wry, intelligent, and razor-sharp, never faded. However, in his later years, his health began to quietly decline. Mole was never one to publicize his ailments or make his struggles part of his public image. Instead, he chose to live and exit with the same subtle grace that had defined his life's work. On June 27, 2024, Martin Mull passed away at his home in Los Angeles at the age of 80. His daughter confirmed his passing, noting that he had endured a long illness with dignity and humor. There was no media circus, no last interview tour, just a gentle farewell from a man who had always let his work speak for him. In the days following his death, tributes poured in from fans, collaborators, and younger comedians who had grown up watching his work, citing him as an influence and an icon of understated brilliance. Orson Bean as Roy. Orson Bean's life story reads less like a typical actor's resume and more like a kaleidoscope of reinvention, resilience, and quiet brilliance. By the time he appeared on 2.5 Men as Roy, a flirtatious and delightfully offbeat older gentleman, Bean was already a living legend. His cameo was short but magnetic. He didn't need more than a few lines to capture an audience. His comedic timing was impeccable, his charm undiminished by age. But the man behind the wink and the punchline had lived through more than his fair share of personal and professional upheaval. Born Dallas Frederick Burroughs on July 22, 1928, in Burlington, Vermont, Bean adopted the stage name Orson Bean early in his career after reportedly opening the phone book and selecting a name that sounded memorable. His father, George Burroughs, was a well-known Harvard professor and a strict disciplinarian, while his mother, Marion, battled mental illness and tragically died by suicide when Orson was just 16 years old. That early trauma would leave a permanent mark on his emotional world, one that he later explored through his writing and storytelling. Bean's path to stardom was unconventional. After serving briefly in the U.S. Army in post-war Japan, he returned home and started performing stand-up comedy in small clubs. His big break came in the 1950s, when he became a regular on television panel shows like To Tell the Truth, where his quick wit and intellect made him a household name. But his growing fame hit a wall during the McCarthy era. Bean was blacklisted in the 1950s, not because he was a communist, but simply for dating a woman who was affiliated with the Communist Party. He found himself unofficially banned from many major television networks, forcing him to pivot toward theater and writing. Undeterred, Bean diversified. He performed on Broadway, wrote essays and memoirs, and even published a best-selling book titled Me and the Orgone, chronicling his experiences with alternative therapies and personal transformation. He was a deeply introspective man, always curious about human nature and spiritual meaning. This intellectual side remained hidden behind his boyish grin and comedic delivery, but it was central to who he was. His acting career found a second wind in the 1980s and 1990s, with roles in Being John Malkovich, Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, and Desperate Housewives. Younger audiences grew to love him, even if they didn't fully realize they were watching a man whose career had spanned 7 decades. Bean's role as Lauren Bray in Dr. Quinn, the town's cynical storekeeper, was a particular standout, bringing both humor and depth to the show's moral center. In his later years, he frequently performed at the Pacific Resident Theater in Venice, California, which he co-founded with his wife Allie Mills, best known as the mother from The Wonder Years. Together, they shared both a professional and personal partnership that flourished well into their golden years. Bean remained sharp and active into his 90s, continuing to perform in plays, deliver lectures, and appear in film and TV. His wit was undiminished, his timing still impeccable. But life had one final, brutal twist in store. On the night of February 7, 2020, while crossing the street near his home in the Venice neighborhood of Los Angeles, Orson was struck by a car. As onlookers rushed to help him, a second vehicle, unable to stop in time, hit him again. He died instantly at the age of 91. His sudden passing shocked the entertainment world, not just for its tragic nature, but because he seemed almost eternal, an actor who had aged but never slowed. In remembering Orson Bean, colleagues and fans alike recalled a man who lived fully and fearlessly. He was a curious soul, unafraid to question everything, and a comic voice who could disarm with kindness. He brought light into countless lives through laughter and honesty. Whether on game shows, sitcoms, theater stages, or in spiritual discussions, he never wore a mask. He was always fully himself. Georgia Engel as Pat McDougal. With a voice as delicate as a whisper and a presence as gentle as spring light, Georgia Engel brought a rare kind of charm to every role she played. On 2.5 Men, she portrayed Pat McDougal, the soft-spoken, sweetly naive mother-in-law who floated into the chaotic Harper universe like a breeze of calm absurdity. Though her role was brief, it was memorable. Her subtle, offbeat delivery injected a new dimension of comedy into the show's brash landscape. But to understand Georgia Engel's magic is to look far beyond the screen, to the theater stages, sitcom studios, and spiritual choices that shaped a quietly profound life. Born on July 28, 1948, in Washington, D.C., Georgia Bright Engel was raised in a disciplined, upper-middle-class household. Her father, Benjamin Engel, was a vice admiral in the United States Coast Guard, while her mother, Ruth, was active in civic affairs. Georgia's upbringing was structured and traditional, yet her personality always leaned toward the whimsical. As a child, she studied ballet and had dreams of becoming a performer. That dream followed her to the University of Hawaii at Manoa, where she earned a degree in theater arts. After college, Engel began her acting journey in earnest with stage roles, including regional theater and off-Broadway productions. Her big break came in the early 1970s when she was cast as Georgette Franklin Baxter on The Mary Tyler Moore Show. Originally intended as a one-time guest character, her role quickly became recurring due to her scene-stealing sweetness and impeccable timing. Georgette, Ed Asner's Ted Baxter's ditzy but warm-hearted girlfriend, was a hit with audiences, earning Engel 2 Emmy nominations. Her chemistry with the cast and her ability to make naivete seem profound turned her into a beloved television figure almost overnight. Following her success in The Mary Tyler Moore Show, Engel continued to build a steady and respected career in television. She reprised her role in the spin-off Rhoda and later earned 3 more Emmy nominations for her recurring appearances on Everybody Loves Raymond, where she played Robert Barone's mother-in-law, Pat McDougal, coincidentally sharing the same character name she would later use on 2.5 Men. Her appearances were always sprinkled with that same lightness. She didn't just play sweet characters, she embodied them, offering a softness that often counterbalanced the tension and conflict around her. In addition to her TV work, Engel had an active stage career. She appeared on Broadway in The Drowsy Chaperone and Hello, Dolly, and was a frequent performer in regional theater, particularly with companies in New York and California. Her work extended to voice acting as well, including a notable role in Open Season and various animated series. Despite never landing leading roles in major Hollywood films, Engel maintained a constant presence in the industry, quiet, humble, and always impactful. Off-screen, Georgia Engel lived a private, almost reclusive life, never marrying and rarely giving interviews. She was widely known in the industry as deeply kind, respectful, and unfailingly professional. Colleagues described her as someone who carried no ego and lit up every room with her radiant personality. Yet behind her warm demeanor lay a powerful spiritual conviction. Engel was a lifelong member of the Church of Christ, Scientist, a religious denomination that advocates for prayer-based healing and generally rejects conventional medical intervention. This deeply held belief would later play a role in the quiet, heartbreaking end to her life. In April 2019, Georgia Engel passed away in Princeton, New Jersey, at the age of 70. Her friend and executor, John Quilty, revealed that she had not consulted medical professionals due to her Christian Science beliefs. As a result, no official cause of death was released, and her passing felt almost surreal, sudden, and without warning. It was a subdued exit, in keeping with the quiet dignity with which she lived her life. She was buried in Cape Charles Cemetery in Virginia, near family, with no large memorial or Hollywood spectacle. Michael Clarke Duncan as Jerome Burnett. Michael Clarke Duncan was impossible to ignore. His size, his voice, his presence, they filled a room. And yet, it was his gentle demeanor that truly defined him. As Jerome Burnett, a former NFL player and friendly neighbor in 2.5 Men, Duncan brought more heart than laughs, proving again how versatile he was. Raised in poverty by a single mother, Duncan dug ditches and guarded celebrities before taking a chance on acting. His breakout role in The Green Mile earned him an Oscar nomination and a place in cinema history. But just as his career reached new heights, tragedy struck. In 2012, at just 54 years old, Duncan died from complications following a heart attack. His death devastated fans and sparked a bitter legal battle involving his fiancée. But the world chose to remember his warmth, his kindness, and the magic he brought to every role. Brian Turk as Gabriel. Brian Turk may not have been a household name, but to those who knew him or even just saw him on screen, he radiated quiet strength. On 2.5 Men, he played Gabriel, a minor character who brought a refreshing calm to the show's usual storm. Turk's career included roles in Jurassic Park, The Lost World, Carnival, and The Jamie Foxx Show. But his real life was far removed from Hollywood glamour. A devoted husband and father, he lived modestly, focusing on family and meaningful work. In 2018, his world was upended by a diagnosis of brain cancer. He fought it with dignity, but on September 13, 2019, he passed away at age 49, leaving behind a young son and a grieving industry that recognized him as one of the good ones. Tonita Castro as Esmeralda. Tonita Castro was a late bloomer in Hollywood, but once she arrived, she made every second count. Born in Mexico in 1953, she didn't start acting until she was in her 50s, long after most actors had given up hope of being discovered. But Castro defied expectations. She found her niche in comedic television, bringing depth and heart to Latina characters too often reduced to caricatures. On 2.5 Men, she played Esmeralda, a sweet and soulful housekeeper who radiated compassion. Her breakthrough came in Go On with Matthew Perry, and she quickly followed with Dad's, Life in Pieces, and other comedies. Then, just as her career was taking flight, she fell ill. Diagnosed with stomach cancer, Castro continued to work for as long as she could before passing away in 2016 at the age of 63. Her story is one of perseverance, dignity, and a reminder that it's never too late to chase your dream. Mike Connors as Hugo. Best known as TV's ultimate detective Joe Mannix, Mike Connors made a brief but meaningful cameo on 2.5 Men as Hugo, a composed older gentleman with a glimmer in his eye. It was a single episode, but for fans of classic television, his presence was a welcome blast from the past. Born in 1925, Connors served in World War II before pursuing acting. His career spanned decades, and he remained a reliable figure in both film and television. Off-screen, he lived a stable life, married for over 60 years to his wife Mary Lou, but age eventually caught up with him. In 2017, just a week after being diagnosed with leukemia, Mike Connors passed away at the age of 91. A veteran in every sense, his departure marked the end of an era. Harry Dean Stanton as himself. Harry Dean Stanton didn't need to play a character. He was the character. On 2.5 Men, he appeared as himself in a hilarious cameo that only added to his legend. Stanton's career was nothing short of mythical. Paris, Texas, Alien, Big Love, and so many more. Born in Kentucky in 1926, he served in World War II and lived a life that blurred the lines between film and reality. Known for his bohemian lifestyle, Stanton never married, never settled, and never stopped creating. In his later years, he continued performing, often jamming with musicians half his age. When he died in 2017 at the age of 91, it wasn't a surprise, but it was a loss. The world had lost a soul who had lived entirely on his own terms. Glenna Headley as Karen. Glenna Headley was elegance and intensity rolled into one. On 2.5 Men, she made a brief but biting appearance as Karen, infusing even a small role with sharp intelligence and undeniable presence. But Headley's resume stretched far beyond sitcoms. Her work in Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, Mr. Holland's Opus, and countless theater productions earned her critical acclaim and audience admiration. Off-screen, she was a devoted mother and a lover of literature, fluent in French and passionate about learning. Her death in 2017 from a sudden health complication stunned the acting community. She was only 62, a career still thriving, a spirit still glowing, extinguished too soon. Edward Herrmann as Judge Harper. Edward Herrmann was the kind of actor who brought authority and warmth in equal measure. As Judge Harper on 2.5 Men, he balanced comedy and gravitas with ease. Best known as Richard Gilmore in Gilmore Girls, Herrmann also earned acclaim portraying Franklin D. Roosevelt in several projects. His deep voice and towering stature made him unforgettable. Behind the scenes, he was a dedicated father and vintage car enthusiast. But in 2014, he was diagnosed with brain cancer. Just months later, on New Year's Eve, he passed away at the age of 71. It was a dignified exit for a man who had carried himself with grace throughout his life. Richard Lewis as Stan. Richard Lewis brought neurotic brilliance to every role he touched, and his guest appearance on 2.5 Men as Stan was no exception. Known for his offbeat humor and brutally honest stand-up routines, Lewis was a mainstay in comedy for decades. He battled health issues, anxiety, and addiction in his early life, transforming personal demons into relatable art. In 2024, at the age of 76, Lewis passed away due to complications related to Parkinson's disease and heart failure. His legacy endures not only in the laughs he left behind, but in his fearless honesty about what it means to be human. Tim Conway as Tim. Tim Conway was the master of the unexpected. On 2.5 Men, he played Tim, a friend of Charlie's with a mischievous edge. It was a small role, but every word he said sparkled with that classic Conway magic. Best known for his work on The Carol Burnett Show, Conway won 6 Emmys and became a legend of sketch comedy. He lived a full life, raising 7 children and making millions of people laugh. In 2019, after battling complications from fluid on the brain, he passed away peacefully in Los Angeles at the age of 85. His humor, his warmth, and his humility remain timeless. These 13 actors may have exited the stage, but their laughter still rings in our ears. They brought us moments of joy, reflection, and unforgettable comedy. Behind the jokes were real lives, some triumphant, some troubled, but all deeply human. Their stories remind us that even in a world built for laughs, the people behind the characters leave behind something real. Which of these actors' performances touched you the most? Was there a moment that made you laugh or cry long after the credits rolled? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this tribute, please give it a like, share it with a friend, and subscribe for more stories that honor the stars behind the scenes. Thanks for watching.